I understand that. Hello, welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth.
Hi, Perry. Yeah, I always like to surprise Perry when I click on the record button to start a show because we've moved the energy up to a very high, jovial, and vibrant level. And we want to start it off with a very high constructive energy. The world's full of nothing but negativity. You know, all the thoughts and evil deeds done to people and each other in all the history that mankind knows is recorded history in 10,000 plus years is still in frequencies bouncing off the ionosphere like radio waves can. And it's all still there. People just unconsciously open themselves to it. Some people suddenly flip out and go postal because they're acting out some kind of thing that was done in ancient China or in Egypt or in Caesar's Rome. And they don't even know they're being influenced by negative things because their imagination's focused in a negative way. It's like connecting a circuit. And in it comes. And some people are stronger than others and they let a little bit in and not so much. Others just collapse and just get inundated with this stuff and they go off and think they're doing God will to blow everybody up in a mall, a bunch of children. That's being the effect of other people's diabolical actions done on earth in history. If people on earth understood how this worked, they would not focus on anything negative at all, ever. And they drop it like a lead brick. But they have to first become aware of this fact. How energy and frequencies work. How does the imagination work? When you imagine something with your eyes closed, it sends out an electromagnetic frequency into the universe, into the air, and it affects molecules and it affects time space. And time space is a mirror. If we throw energy of imagination, which is the energy is coming from the primordial first current, the hue, and then it splits into a dual current, positive and negative, in the physical universes of time and space. And it creates opposite effects, often opposed. And by universal law, that energy must come back to the person who created it sooner or later. That's a teacher. It's an old way of teaching people, and it really isn't very effective because the universe hasn't changed in billions of years. Good guys and bad guys fighting it out on all these dimensions below the void has been going on for a time beyond the imagination of people on earth. And nothing has really changed in any of this. There are vast organizations of world systems out beyond earth in the hundreds and hundreds of millions that are kind to each other. And they protect that their organization of worlds from other tyrant races. And they're really not vulnerable to attack from reptilians or some other type of race because any kind of warfare destroys worlds and people in the billions. Somebody that's a negative tyrant spacefaring race is defeated in these wars eventually every time because negative natures cannot envision or invent anything new. They can steal it, rob it from kind people if they're able to dominate less capable worlds, and they can abuse it, but they can't invent it. So anybody traveling the stars that is negative or tyrant in nature, that don't respect some types of life like human beings, are not the inventors of the technology that gets them around the stars. They've just ripped it off from other people. They're so ruthless that they can beat other kind races in a battle on the ground physically, or even in space. If they find weak planets or weak worlds and they're vulnerable, then they go in and rip off technology and things like this. They don't invent it themselves, ever. It's not possible in the way the multiverse is created to create new ways of doing things for the benefit of all life when you're being negative. You can't invent anything. You can be jealous of people who do. You can beg, borrow, steal, and connive and backstab people to get it. But there's a price to pay ultimately in the basic law of the physical universes if you do that. Whatever you do to others must come back and eventually be done to the people who did it. That's what karma and reincarnation is all about. Practically speaking, it's not some spiritual lofty dictate from God in the upper worlds. It's the way the lower universes of time and space were energetically set up back long ago. And if people are too stupid or too ignorant to recognize that when they do something negative, they will pay a terrible price for it to learn better, then they're too stupid to see it, and they will suffer. It will come back and bite them hard. Whole worlds have been destroyed this way. Reptilian worlds, human worlds in wars. So such wars are prevented. People talk about wars taking place out in space right now. They're doing that based on fear, and fear they hear from others on the internet. There's no wars out there. There is a Cold War still going on of a type between the vast majority of benevolent world systems and a few spacefaring tyrant races, and they could be hundreds of worlds. Hundreds of worlds are nothing compared to hundreds of millions. Think about this for a moment. It isn't possible for tyrant races to take over this universe from the good guys. They can be a pain in the ass and a thorn in the side of such people under treaty. But eventually, whatever they do, they must grow up and pay the price for their misuse. That doesn't mean they have to be destroyed necessarily. It means they have to change in consciousness to no longer be tyrants. And so this is the great change that's taken place out among the stars amongst the more advanced races, is to change these tyrants into not being tyrants. And that means removing from them some kind of subconscious program that's negative and terrorizing, that drives them to behave the way they do. None of those beings acting that way remember when that was done to them out in galactic history. They're acting out a program some other more tyrant race put in them to control them to go to war. That war came to an end 500,000 years ago. And the more tyrant race was put away and locked in another dimension. And that's not the issue here. The issue is that races in space and out there and on Earth have been negatively affected by these events 500,000 years ago, and they're suffering from them today in the next incarnation of a body they choose to run. They take it with them. There is technology and the awareness in beings out among the stars that know how to neutralize or end that subconscious effect on people. The technology does not exist on this planet at this time. And it will not be provided to people on this planet at this time until people are ready to appreciate it and respect the beings who would provide it. It doesn't mean we come under their control. They don't want that control. It means we grow up and take care of our own planet, our atmosphere, our groundwater, radiation, all that nonsense. Stop slaughtering masses of animals all over the planet to satisfy an insane lust to eat flesh, like worse than any animal does to another species. And people live normal lives and have babies, and they don't realize the karmic repercussions that's creating for them as a race. They say God said we should kill and eat animals. Well, they just made that up to placate their guilty conscience. In reality, people are not behaving as human beings on planet Earth right now. They just think they are. Down deep, they know they aren't. They know there's something not right here, something way out of balance here, way out of proportion. They think that Earth must be, in the way we treat life, our environment and animals and each other, is like it is on other planets. Well, there's a few out there like that. But they're going to be shocked to their boots when they discover just how vastly different the most advanced life is out in the universe. They're denied knowing about now in a classified system. Doesn't do a thing to alter what's out there. It just holds back what is inevitable to take place on this planet. The people on this planet are destined to know about extraterrestrial life all over the universe and in parallel and higher dimensions. Because in their ignorance and in their terrorized subconscious state they're in now, they don't remember they're running bodies in other dimensions right now as a single being. They don't have any clue. And people on Earth pat each other in the back and say that's normal. They know it's not. Down deep, they do. but they're terrorized, subconsciously afraid, not only to know the God they pray to directly, they're terrified of that. And they feel guilty that if they expose themselves to that God, they're going to be, ashamed of all they've done and all that kind of thing, because they think that God is a vengeful God that punishes sin. Only tyrants teach that to masses they want to control. Guilt is negative. Shame is negative. All those things are negative, and they only produce negative results and can never produce constructive, positive, or uplifting results, ever. If you have a country or a world of countries making decisions by people that are either elected or they're tyrants, and they're making decisions on fear of losing their power or fear of the unknown that exists off-world, more afraid than the people they're suppressing that knowledge from, they will always make incorrect, least optimum decisions about money, what to do, and how to fix things. They'll always make the wrong choice, each and every time. And when that doesn't work out, they throw more money at it to try to suppress it or fix it. And that doesn't work. That backfires. It's the law of the universe. They can't escape it. At some point, when the vibration is risen a little bit on this world, the classified hidden government and current elected people collectively will realize they have no future out in space or any future, the survival of the human race on Earth, the way we're living now. There isn't a future there. Cannot be one. Because space is already occupied by more advanced races that are not tyrant, most of them. And they would share what they know with us if we could be humble students and they could be teachers we could respect. They're not interested in taking over the government's Earth and running this messed up backward planet. No, they're not. They're interested in getting people to grow up and run it properly themselves. And we're not doing that now on this world. Not anywhere near it. People on Earth have the potential and the capability to recover who they are and to change. All people. Many of the classified people that are made to keep their mouths shut on every level of that classification, many of them are good, kind beings. They are in a system that perpetuates lying to everyone for whatever the justified reason may be. And if all the countries do it, we're all in this turkey mess together of everybody deceiving everybody else. And that goes round and round, stays in the atmosphere of Earth until it destroys everything. It does not leave the atmosphere of this planet, no matter what people on Earth think. There's a fail-safe in creation this way. Everything negative done since the history of this planet could support human life in 65 million years is still circulating within the atmosphere of this planet. It does not and cannot be lodged and programmed into the void of space between planets and galaxies, because that medium is not nuclear and you can't store things in it. You can send a signal through it, but you can't store that signal there. It just evaporates or diminishes over distance. When people start to understand the nature of this energy between planets and worlds and suns and moons and galaxies and stars and how it works, they will have the key to explore the universe. Far beyond any limited idea of the speed of light. I've mentioned this many times. The speed of light that they claim is 286,000 miles per second is only the limitation of what physical eyes can detect and measure. It is not the limit of light itself. What physical eyes can see as light is not the limit of light or its speed or how quickly you can move through it or communicate through it. People that understand this in the universe are able to get it to other frequencies and communicate across galaxies instantly. The most advanced beings in the universe can move out of their physical form, wherever they're running it, and travel across time and space anywhere instantly without a ship. So you can really see if that's true, and it is. Beings trying to go out there as physical bodies, thinking they're physical animals or physical beings, and going out and putting all that limited, destructive thinking and fear on other races is never going to be allowed or tolerated by those races. We won't be allowed to play among the stars, working as a planet full of opposing governments that can't get along. Ain't going to happen ever. Doesn't matter if they have a U.S. Space Force or a hidden classified force or anything else. We still have to play with those beings. And they're not going to let us pollute their universe with our stupidity and fear. They have the ability to change that. They've even offered to give it for free to people on this planet. It's been turned down several times. That's got to change if we want to play in the universe, because we need to learn how to do what they know how to do, and we don't know how to do it. Negative thinking, fear-ridden people will never discover the secrets of time travel, parallel dimension travel, going faster than the speed of light, going through interdimensional portals. They'll never learn that. It takes a higher consciousness to understand it and circumnavigate how it works. You can't do it throwing fear and negativity and or weaponizing space out in the universe. You'll never know it. There's a fail-safe in creation that way. So the only reason I put this out with a little bit of strength and certainty of knowing is so that somewhere on this earth, people will listen and start to change for their own good. It's not my place to dictate their world or to come here and rule the governments or anything. I don't care. I never cared a hoot about that in the first place. That's not why I'm on this planet for now. It's to help bring in an energy that inspires people to create with their imagination that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life. And it cannot work efficiently if it's just selfishly for the life on your planet. It has to be for the life of all of it. And then the doors and the secrets of the universe are opened. We have to know how to play kindly out there if we expect to play in it efficiently at all. Metal ships with rocket power will never travel the stars ever. Never in 1 billion more years. They can't go fast enough. They have limited fuel. They have to have oxygen to ignite that fuel. Even if they're ion driven, they can't go fast enough. They cannot jump between points in space-time. Radioactive isotopes running some kind of warp engine is not going to be allowed either, because it's polluting to the environment of space. Races out there know that. They're not going to allow that. This planet of people, of misdirected people who don't remember who they are, what they are that is not and never has been a physical body, or what to go do with themselves when they wake this up. Such people cannot play out there amongst others who know how to do it. They're not mature enough to be trusted to play out there. So our solar system is, in fact, quarantined, and not by anybody on Earth. And it will remain that way until Earth steps up to bat, until we have one kind world government. Otherwise, we're encapsulated on this planet. You can get a rocket ship to go to the moon. Big deal. Whoop-de-doo. Hoopla. That was done, what, 50 years ago? Apollo? So what? You try taking one of those ships like that to Mars 2 years each way. Nobody will survive the journey. Not in the ships that are designed today. You have to have big enough space, exercise, some kind of circling thing to create gravity. Very awkward, very cumbersome, slow. They still can't go fast that way. And any kind of radioactive material that's made to boil water to create steam to create electricity, I don't see how they're going to create enough current that way to drive some kind of super anti-gravitic drive. To drive those drives, you have to use the energy of the universe, zero-point or toroidal. You cannot create or control what is there that is between planets and moons and stars that all these gravitational worlds float in that supports that. Obviously, more advanced spacefaring races understand how to work with that energy to get around the laws of physics, physical matter, electrons, protons, nucleons, atoms. That's just limited to physical matter. And it's only limited to a parallel dimension out of 144 in just the physical universe alone. If we want to get from here to the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, we won't want to go through linear light because the consciousness of people on Earth think it's limited to 286,000 miles per second, in which case they only build devices that are limited. They don't know how to think outside the box. They got to get out of their body and look at the universe without those limitations, and then they can see it like other beings out there do. It's just that simple. So if people hear this because it's telepathically sent out, all humans are telepathic, but that's been suppressed. They're not conscious of it anymore. So if this is sent out for the benefit of all people on Earth, every leader, royal family, the masses of people, all the animals, all the plants, the planets, the moons, the mountains, the oceans, the water, the air, then it passes through material matter and supports it, but it isn't nuclear in nature. It is energy. And that energy needs to be understood because it comprises an individual being that runs a physical DNA body like a human being through the pineal gland in the center of the brain. That's how it's controlled. The brain and body cannot run itself genetically. When a baby is born, it doesn't even breathe or start running unless the spherical being, what people on Earth call soul, starts to run it when it's capable of breathing. This has been lost information, lost understanding in the people of Earth long ago. Even before they found themselves born on this planet, they were made to forget that out among the stars. And those experiences were not pleasant. And people are afraid, terrorized to remember that. And until they can confront that in a safe environment with safe people that know what they're doing, they cannot look at it on screens objectively and simply turn that terrorizing misdirection program into nothing more than a memory. And then out of that comes all the higher faculties of being, turning back on, becoming aware. It's not the brain or body that becomes enlightened. You can advance it, you can enlighten it to a degree. It is the Atma, the spherical being, spherical in nature and shape, that runs a body. And it is that recovers awareness of who and what it is. And it is that has the higher faculties, that is supposed to be able to run through a body like this and can't do it. When you're born on Earth and you start remembering who you are, you go, what am I doing here? How come my higher faculties don't work? How come nobody can hear me talk to them? And that's what people go through when they're born here. And they just shut down because they're too frustrated. They can't figure anything out. Nothing works. Certain genomes on the DNA passed on genetically for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years in some cases, or from beings who are forced to come here and get in a body, the genomes are shut down, certain ones, so that they can't run telepathy. They don't have a photographic memory. Different things don't work like they should. Use 6 to 10% of the brain instead of 100%. All human brains, if they're normal, are 100% active and developed. But people running those bodies unconsciously only use 6 to 10% of it because they don't remember how to use any more of it. They're not conscious of it. People in human bodies at the time Lemuria was here over 100,000 years ago, at the height before it was destroyed overnight in a polar flip, have roughly exactly the same development of human being consciousness and capability as we have today. Those body forms were not much different than we have here, except in many cases the genomes and the DNA were not turned off. Life that could not get off the planet at that time died here, was destroyed. Physical bodies, not the beings, the bodies. When Maldek, a planet that did exist in our solar system between Mars and Jupiter, which now circles as in an orbit of a planet, all rubble, was blown up long ago. It created an imbalance in our solar system. Earth's polar flips began to happen cyclically. That's classified. And those events would cause such cataclysmic weather changes, ground changes, that all life on the surface, with the exception of maybe, if you're lucky, 2,000 people, is killed. Most animal and plant life destroyed. Some sea life survives. Whole land masses are risen from the ocean floor. Entire continents are sunk overnight. 24 hours. And then we have a new period when the poles are going 180 degrees opposite of what they were. That's why they classified it, because they're frightened of it. They were due for one, so they didn't want the public to know. That was discovered during détente with Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan when they put scientists around the world taking deep core samples. They found this out, and then they classified it. Russia too. Because as far as they knew, we were due for one. We're going to scare all the people. We're going to all be wiped out in a polar shift. And guess what? It's 2021. It never happened because it's been stopped permanently from happening again. That had nothing to do with people or militaries on this planet. Nada, zip, zilch, nothing. It didn't have to do with the Galactic Alliance extraterrestrial races either. It's deeper than that. It had to do with beings who run the mechanics of creation itself that were motivated recently to cease the polar flips of this planet. People on Earth haven't got a clue such beings even exist. They're not interested in individual evolution of atmas or souls. That's not their function. Other master teachers and beings are more interested in training individuals. Most of them are not on this planet. A few have come here. It's not a fair playing field. Earth has never been a fair playing field because you build a whole civilization up over 100,000 years like Lemuria, the very last cycle, and destroy it overnight. If you go back further in Earth history, you find that other continents of Lemuria have existed in slightly different variations and forms, going back 65 million years. This whole idea of continents drifting, which they do, but drifting from one big continent that became the continents we have today is not correct. The events that change worldwide the surface of the planet happen overnight. Then we have an ice age for a time. 6 ice ages in 600,000 years, as far as I understand it. People look at that and they go, well, wait a minute, how did that happen? How do we get ice all over the planet and it goes away and then 100,000 years later we have another one? Earth has never been a fair playing field because humans and other races and other worlds that are very advanced have been allowed to evolve into higher states of awareness for millions of years, hundreds of millions of years, even billions. Earth has never been allowed to be like those worlds until now, until recently. So people on Earth now have the opportunity to get it together, have a change that's unexpected, transform the world, and then join those that are out among the stars, just on the physical universe level alone. Earth is in that position where it can step forward or be annihilated. You don't need aliens to come here to do it. People on Earth, in their fear, are already set up the patterns to annihilate themselves. Doesn't even need reptilians or anybody else at this point. Global warming, chemtrail spraying, whatever they're doing out of desperation, has no future result to turn this planet around. It's negative. You cannot pollute anything on Earth to save it from something else without causing problems elsewhere that then have to be dealt with. So that whole system of thinking is wrong. And it produces problems for the people who put those things into motion because it backfires on them constantly. Beings who have not been grown up on this planet, who don't have subconscious minds at all, because it's a perversion for a being to have one, it's forced on them, can look at this problem of Earth and its pollution and its people, and from outside see how to solve it on a planetary scale. And it's going to take their technology and their kindness. And if they're not tyrants, then we have to invite that. Only tyrants force their way onto people, or sneak in the back door, sneak around people's backs to get something done, to lie and cheat and weasel their way into Earth. I say this because such beings have been monitored from off-world ever since they started breaking a treaty here. And if it hadn't been for beings from other worlds that were kind, the people on this planet would have blown this place up in nuclear war at least 12 separate times that I know of. What stopped that? The leaders who were willing to push the button? No, they didn't stop it. Something else did, without interfering in governments, without trying to control anyone. So I put that out there, and I've done it many times in many different ways, but only for the benefit of all people on Earth, including its leaders. I have no vested interest in favoring one group over another, nor do the people I work with off-world. They're interested in helping us take our place among the stars. And to do that, we have to do two things. It's not going to change. We have to be a world system run by a benevolent government system that takes a great change in consciousness, dropping fear, subconscious drives. And it has to be beginning space exploration, which we've accomplished. We're doing that. But the two have to go together. Once we do that, all that technology, advanced craft, getting around the stars, going on field trips to Nerexlum or other worlds, is provided. There's no money involved. That takes a great change for a planet like Earth. We have the choice now to step up to bat because we've started the space exploration. Or everybody leaves their bodies on this planet, gets bodies somewhere else and tries to get them. In which case the world would be uninhabitable for a period of time. The world will survive just fine. And then people will recolonize this planet. That's what we're up against. The beings out there that I work with and that I know about are interested in transforming this world by the collective, co-creative cooperation of its people. To do that, people have to be operating and making decisions without negative subconscious drives affecting that decision making. It's very simple. So the ability, the technology, the spirituality, the awareness to do this has been done to other worlds before effectively at the right time. Earth is not the first. The difference is, as backward as Earth is being misdirected now out of fear, how it's going to be transformed is never been done before in any world before. Because of something new that's running through that void of space, that omnipresent primal primordial energy that is not nuclear. It is energy. It's conscious. Something new is running through that. And it's beginning to end a failed experiment in favor of one that will work. And that one that works helps beings to recover who they are that isn't a physical body and never has been. So they can play in the universe as who they are and run bodies and know it and be conscious of it. That's the only difference. That's what people on Earth need to go through. So why don't we go on a little journey? If you have any questions, now's the time.
I just like to share this. People in Thailand, she read the books, and then she just confirmed with me that once she read the book, she could have direct experience. And every time she starts to open to read again, she has direct experience.
It's good. That's what's designed to do.
Yeah.
This is not my power. I don't claim any power to lord anything over any others. I don't want such power. I don't desire such power at all. My motivation for doing what I'm doing on this planet is to assist people to be able to take their place in the universe and not go up in smoke. That is it. And that motivation is collectively what is underway amongst billions, even trillions of beings that are not on this planet and not even in this dimension. Things are changing out in the universe in unexpected new ways. Earth is in the middle, in the path of that movement. That change did not begin in the physical universe at all. And it didn't begin in the lower dimensions of time and space. It didn't begin in the void. That's supposed to be the highest realm some esoteric groups think you can go to, they think is God. That's just energy. But there is much above that in the higher realities that people need to be aware of on every world, in every dimension, in the lower universes of time and space. Because then, and only then, do we all have the opportunity to make the lower worlds of time and space mirrors of the upper realities, which have no negative nature. The reason these were created, you'll name them etheric, mental, causal, astral, physical, and all the subdivisions in each of them, were so that one day, all of us running human bodies and other worlds to gain experience would wake up to a point where we would know how to collectively create, making the lower worlds of time and space mirrors of the upper worlds, which means we have to be proper custodians, caretakers of these planets, the stars, the galaxies, the dimensions, the doorways between dimensions, and utilize them for the good of all life. That is our real purpose for existing as soul, what more advanced races off-world call Atma. It means it's an atom, an individualization of the source behind all life, identical to that source in every way, on a smaller scale, like a drop of pure water, pure light and sound, not nuclear, that has the same faculties of creation as the source, but on a smaller scale, like a drop of pure water in an ocean of that same substance. And it is that ocean that moves down through vibrational levels as the same one energy, through all the dimensions of time and space, out through the galaxies. The big black void between galaxies is it. Human eyes see it as black, but it's really a brilliant white golden light. When you're out of your body, you can see it for what it is, because it takes a higher frequency of vision to see that light that human eyes are not designed to detect. They don't see a wide enough frequency. And when people can do that on Earth with the help of other beings from elsewhere, they'll be able to work with that toroidal or 0 point energy of the universe and get around famously well. It becomes simple then to understand how to circumnavigate the multiverse. You can go through 144 parallel dimensions on all the planets in each level, like 144 Milky Way galaxies. It's big. And more advanced races can travel between all of them, not just between galaxies in one parallel dimension. And they have trade and relationships with all of that. Then if they want to go into the next major division, in quantum physics, they know there's 11 higher dimensions. They want to go into what we call the astral plane, 144 planes where emotion is the energy that moves matter, not effort. Then they have to leave their craft behind, get out of their body, and go into that plane and work with bodies they have living there and ships they have there. You take this same principle on up through the planes. The individual spherical Atma runs a number of bodies on each dimensional level. But when the bodies are put to sleep at night in the trance state and run on automatic, this spherical thing that divides itself to run these different bodies joins as one, and then it can go across the void into the upper realities where it originally came from. each one of us. That does never going to change, no matter how many lifetimes you live in unconsciousness. It's always going to be the same. So at the core of our being, the Atma, is the knowledge inherently there to circumnavigate creation. But those teardrops that make up the different levels of the Atman have to be turned on by conscious awareness of the being, which is really the individualization at the white core of that sphere. Same as the source itself, connected to that source, telepathically linked to that source. So we go through the first half of the human word, hue, to generate a certain frequency that turns on certain rods and cones in the pineal gland, the center brain, and opens a doorway so that the Atma awareness tied to the hue in the universe, to the source, can come through this vehicle and into this brain that never learned any of this growing up on Earth from any teacher or any university. It has to be brought from who we are into this incarnation, this body and brain, to enlighten it here, to get it receptive, to get the blocks out of the way, so that higher awareness can run through this form without burning it out. Negativity, negative ideas, negative imagination are like resistors in a circuit board. They resist flow of energy and create heat or resistance in order to create a lesser frequency or a lesser energy out the other side of that resistor to cause it to do certain things. Negative nature of emotions and imagination are like resistors in the circuit board. The energy wants to come through a crystalline structure that doesn't limit it. That's Atma, that's soul. But if the Atma or soul is focused on negative things, it sets up resistance to that. And that, if enough energy moves through a human body in order to become really enlightened, if the body and the genomes on the DNA are not prepared, it'll burn that body right out. Fry it. So beings that are aware of this from other worlds understand this, and they're very careful about how they go about helping people get rid of their resistance to who they are. What I mean is their resistance and fear to knowing and recovering who they are, that is and has always been meant to be a co-creator with the source behind all life. Co-creator. Somebody has developed at some point to run whole galaxies, doorways between dimensions, new creations. And that's what human beings, as odd as it sounds, underneath it all on Earth, are designed to be able to do one day. So I'll put out these tones. Part of these fairly long journeys on Perry's radio show are done to give, because it's telepathic, to give a basis of a grounded understanding, to awaken that within beings so they can participate in this process, get their body to go to sleep like they put it in every night, and then go on a journey with us beyond the atmosphere of planet Earth. Like other beings do who also pilot spaceships. They can leave a ship parked in an orbit around Saturn, travel to Earth as a spherical energy being, go look at something, do what they need to do, contact someone and go back, get the body up, go over and start working on the controls, while other couples on the ship do the other things. They take turns. Everyone that pilots those crafts is cross-trained, both in science and in piloting vehicles across the universe. One may be a biologist specialist. One may be a quantum physicist type specialist. One may be a wormhole or interdimensional portal specialist. Someone else may deal with historical trends so they can avoid mistakes of the past. And they study this stuff and they record this stuff on many worlds. But they each can get out of their body consciously and travel. They're not limited to the craft they use. Now, this is what the potential is for people on Earth right now. And people are very afraid of it. So I'll bring out these tones, which are telepathic in nature, and I will send them out from the first half of the word hue, which is a connective system set up long before the history of Earth existed. This word, if you take it off world and put it on other planets and different voices and different types of biological beings, they can make this sound or emulate this sound in one way or another. And it will open a door in the center of whatever brain they have and allow them to be beyond the body and bringing back higher awareness to that body from out among the stars, from parallel dimensions, higher realities, because if you don't do that, you will not bring it to the physical body and brain that you have on Earth that never learned any of it. None of that is in the physical body and brain on Earth. The Savior's Agenda and what's revealed in it, the Emerald Doorway, and all 3 books, one of which is published. I didn't make that up in my brain. I'm not smart enough growing up from this Earth to know how to imagine that stuff with the data that this brain's collected in one lifetime. It's impossible. So when I close my eyes, physical eyes, that part of the brain is turned off. Open, on, closed, off, just that simple. So when my eyes are closed and I'm imagining something in the universe, I'm really seeing it there. If I want to understand great wisdom and understand wormhole physics and quantum mechanics and interdimensional portal travel and going faster than the speed of light and developing craft that can circumnavigate the universe and how to do it, then I've got to work with that omnipresent energy, zero-pointer toroidal, that exists between all things that float in it. It supports all those things. We have to work with that energy if we want to know the secrets of creation. The tones will help your physical body go to sleep just like you put it in every night, but they'll also help your astral, causal, mental, and etheric bodies you're running, whether you're aware of it or not, also go to sleep at the same moment, safely and protected. Heart works, lungs work, everything works, just like your body's snoring. Nobody's home. You knock on someone's forehead. You got to shake them out of that sleep or bring them back to the body, or there's nobody there to hear you. I'll begin those tones now, and then we'll go on a journey. Imagine someone you respect and love, you're grateful they are in your life. Person, place, or thing, but it should be something that makes you smile inside, warm, heart energy, that kind of thing, whatever that might be. when you don't effort it, when you get tired and you go to bed at night, you lay down on the pillow, you close your eyes and off you go. And most people become unconscious, or so they think, until they wake up the body in the morning. Where did they go during that 8 hours or so? Because if a body's asleep, there's nobody home to talk to until you wake them up. That's because the being that's running that body is not home. There's an energy cord of a type. It's purely telepathic. It is a white golden energy. It's part of the toroidal energy that connects the individual white core of an atma or soul to the pineal gland, the center of the brain. It is not a nuclear energy. It cannot be broken by psychics, or it cannot be broken by demons. It cannot be broken by anything negative. It's not a golden cord or a silver cord or anything like that. Those are just links between the various bodies you're running in the lower dimensions of time and space. If the astral body dies, your physical body will soon perish. The astral body lives much longer. If someone gets old and feeble and the body ceases there, the link between that and the physical is severed. A person has then no memory, no mind, which is on a higher plane, coming down into that body. Can't remember its name. And anybody that's in that condition, eventually, the physical body will also atrophy and perish. So there are many different things that go on in physical bodies on Earth that cause the body to stop functioning. And every time that happens, the being simply is somewhere else. In the hue, the sound behind all sounds, the first sound ever created, from which and through which the entire multidimensional creation was built, emanated from energy that is not part of and never was part of and never is part of the positive and negative creations of the multiverse below what certain esoteric groups call the void. It splits off into a dual current from those realities far above this vast area of nothingness. It's really a pale blue light. And then it begins to form like a positive and negative pole of a battery. It begins to form structures in different molecular time rates that the beings who are not matter oriented can work to manifest what they imagine into physical reality. The power that brings all imagination into reality, every invention, every cure for disease, bodies levitating, bodies dematerializing, changing genetic genome structure and programming, are all powered or brought into manifestation by the one toroidal energy. We, as individual beings, do not have the power to do any of that. We have the ability to co-create or imagine with this source behind all life new ways of doing things, and it brings them into power or into reality, both good and bad in the lower dimensions of time and space. So we don't want to be imagining negative things, because that will go out in time, space, and this one power will simply co-create it into reality with you, good or bad. What's changing out there is the way this one energy works. This is for each individual to awaken and discover the truth of this on their own. The assistance to do this is there. Beings on Earth need to have enough courage to step beyond their upbringing, brainwashing, fear, put it aside. So I would ask all of you, whatever your concerns are, any fears you have of the present or the future, COVID or anything else, who's in charge of what country, put it all aside just for this journey and turn it off. It's just like you're reaching over on a computer keyboard and turning off the computer. Or you could unplug it. Or you could store all negative things in a flash drive or a separate hard drive, not turned on. And then the body goes into this sleep state, kind of a natural process. It sinks down and simply goes to sleep. It just simply begins to run on automatic while you're gone. So people run their bodies in automatic while they're gone every night, but they don't remember what they're doing when they leave it. Why? Because they have never been taught any of this growing up on Earth. They have no grounded reality in any of it. So they're afraid. And subconscious negative programs they carry before they even found themselves born on this planet influence whether you decide to break free of that or remain entrapped by it. That hue comes from off-world through me. It is not psychic in nature. I'm not putting down psychics. It is an energy communication link between all beings and the source behind all life that exists and existed before the lower worlds of time and space where psychic things were even created. Predates it. So when we go into that hue, we are going back into the pure energy of creation. And this can only be done in a conscious way. When we begin to become conscious co-creators with this one energy people pray to all the time, they call divine spirit, without understanding it. It is not so much interested in what you pray to it as what you imagine in it. Because imagination is the way the Atma or soul sees into the multiverse to know things instantly and inherently. If you want to know how to move between planets or how to move between dimensions, the Atma has to be awake, aware of what it is and what its purpose is that is not now nor has ever been a physical body and brain on any world. Just consider it higher science. You can call it spiritual science if you want. When I'm doing this, and you can hear my voice, you will realize your body's in a sleep state. And you, the being, are in what's called serenity of being. The beings I work with from other worlds and other realities and master teachers see to it that your negative subconscious emotion and imaginations are turned off for this journey. They remain off with your sleeping physical body, which is safe, while you go on this journey. As you go into the hue, you're going to feel a peace and a calm come over you from the inside out. There's a protection that goes with its use. It allows an individual, even on a planet as backwardly misdirected as Earth is right now, to step away from all that influence. We will be journeying outside the physical atmosphere of planet Earth as a first step. We want to be above and beyond the negative influence of that which is still running around the atmosphere on Earth, bouncing off the ionosphere like a radio wave gets around the curvature of the planet. Be above your body near the ceiling, looking down on it. Just use daydreaming. Just like you know what daydreaming is. You're in a classroom, you're growing up, you're bored with a teacher, you imagine being somewhere else on a camping trip or skiing with a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. And you can see it, even with your eyes open while you're looking at the parking lot out the window from the classroom. You close your eyes, you can see it more clearly. But when your eyes are closed, no light from the physical world is coming into your brain, impressing it with anything. So when you imagine, the brain is not involved. No matter what you've been taught, the brain and the nervous system of a human body is not designed to imagine anything. There is no camera or projector screen on which to project a movie or a motion picture for you to watch it between brain cells. That's not its purpose or function. When you imagine anything running a brain and body on Earth unconsciously, meaning you don't remember how you're running it, then you can imagine being on another planet, above the Earth in space, or anywhere else, and actually be there. The Atma, the real you, is not nuclear or atomic in nature. There's no protons, neutrons, electrons, or anything like that in it. It is a type of energy that exists everywhere, behind and supporting all physical matter. It is conscious, not like an individual being, but it is aware, and it is a co-creator with us. It comes from the source supporting and behind all life. Be in the atmosphere above your world, up above where you live, looking down on your home through the roof. You can look right through it and see. You are a sphere of energy hovering in the atmosphere at 10,000 feet, wherever you are on the planet. You're looking down and you see the same sphere that you are, Atma or soul, hovering near the ceiling above that body. You are in both places simultaneously. Now, imagine that you are above the Earth, way out in space, looking down on the Earth with its polar ice caps and barren moon, pockmarked with meteor craters, no atmosphere to speak of, and it doesn't turn on the axis as it moves around Earth. It always shows the people of Earth the same side. No one sees the backside of the moon. They call it the dark side, but it isn't dark. It passes in front of the sun too. But you can do things there without the people of Earth seeing it. Radio telescopes won't detect it, astronomical reflector telescopes won't see it, etc. And from up here, you can see that we are, all of us on this journey, in a circle around a friend of mine, a trusted, loving, kind, extremely evolved being named Ambassador Turellian. He is the ambassador of the Se-Rays race, thus the title, the Se-Rays Agenda. The race that they are evolved billions of years ago out in other galaxies far beyond Andromeda or the Milky Way. They were responsible for bringing into creation the higher evolution of body forms, the genetic structure, the genomes, like Earth humans, Venusians, beings from other worlds, other realities, spacefaring races of all kinds. And they brought those genetic forms up to a point where individual Atmas, individual beings or souls could run them and run higher faculties of creation through them to gain experience in physical matter worlds and to bring that experience back to where they came from. That was the original plan. Beings have not been returning in billions of years. So the universe is stuck. What's recently begun is the unsticking of the lower worlds of time and space so it can be run a little differently. Turellian and his people immortalized their physical bodies over 1 billion years ago. They didn't make them so they live to be 36 forever. They dematerialized the atomic structure, the DNA pattern, and stored it in one teardrop faculty that circles around the center core of their being. Then they utilize the 0-point energy of the universe to simply fill in a grid pattern matrix of light and sound into that DNA pattern and manifest an instant physical body if they need one. Carry out a mission somewhere in some world and then dissolve it back and store it. They do not have the burden of carrying around a physical body 24/7 like we do. The spacefaring races, when they became spacefaring, the Saries departed the scene in this level, in this reality, to see what everyone would do with it. Races became tyrant in nature long after that event. The Saries have recently announced their return by presenting, this particular ambassador presented himself to the Galactic Alliance Council on a planet near the galactic core of the Milky Way galaxy. 5,000 members represent more than 450 million spacefaring races. And a change took place amongst the consciousness of those beings. A change that had previously taken place amongst the Saries for the first time. A change that had taken place amongst beings much more evolved in much higher realities. And so, the Saries ambassador, through his presence, began to change the core group of this government. The Saries agenda is really about what is changing out in the universe that, fortunately for us on Earth, is going to pass through Earth anyway. And people on Earth need to be prepared for that so they can handle it with dignity, calm, and serenity of being. What is underway now out there and moving through the planet Earth and our solar system now cannot be reversed, because it didn't get created as the will of beings in the lower worlds. It cannot be reversed. Like the polar flips of planet Earth have permanently been suspended. So beings can evolve, survive, and change for hundreds of millions of years without interruption from polar shifts. When you look at the Earth from out here, you look at yourself, you are a spherical, luminous being. You have a white core, an outer layer around it that's like teardrop shapes in a certain thickness, a kind of a yellow core, a little bit of a orange core, red, green, blue, lavender, violet, golden exterior, white golden light surrounding it. And it's the same white golden light that makes up the core of your being, the outer aura or surrounding electromagnetic field around what you call the Atma, and that is in the space between spaces, that's in the void between all things that float in it. And you can see that you are looking across a circle of beings that surround this friend of mine, Terrellian, and you can see that he is showing you an 18-foot tall body. It is an energy projection, looks human, long, slightly curly blonde hair, big blue eyes, tunic type of gown, 2 thumbs up, fists out with a white golden light around them, holding the space where we are. And it's all of no negative nature whatsoever. Nothing of any negative nature can penetrate this space from anywhere for any reason. Then you look and you see that there is a spherical being, an Atma, hovering above this form he's showing us. That's Terrellian. The body form he's showing you is what they looked like 18 to 25 feet tall long ago in galactic history, before they dematerialized all of those forms to assume a higher nature. When you look, you can see a physical body that looks just like you, about 36 years old, but perfectly, flawlessly shaped, perfectly healthy, smiling, standing in space as if you're breathing in air, but there's no air here. Because this physical form you're projecting from the white core of your being, the sphere that's hovering above it, does not feel cold or heat, does not need oxygen to breathe, doesn't feel radiation from the sun, and yet you can show this aspect of yourself to all of us so we can recognize who you are. When you look down on the earth, you can see the polar ice caps and the barren moon, the sun in the distance. And when you look out in space here, it's not black at all. There's a brilliant white golden light everywhere, around, in between, above and below the earth, the moon, the sun, and the stars. You can see billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy all around us, perfectly lit up within this white golden light. We are simply existing as atmas, non-energy beings. That's not it. We're energy beings, but we're not physical, atomic, or nuclear beings. The center of the atma itself, what people on earth call soul, is spherical. Have you ever asked yourself why planets and moons and suns and stars are round? They are patterned after their makers. The human being, in its true form, is not 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and excrement organs that eats and excretes and lives a short life on Earth. That is a DNA form, a machine that the Atma runs temporarily. None of us could ever have been, nor were we ever at any time, a physical body, even though you've been twisted to believe this over time. Turelian's 2 thumbs up, being held out, have this white golden light around him. And he's radiating a protective energy field several miles wide out in space that we're floating in. We can do this too when we're confident enough to do it. And then you begin to see other beings begin to appear here who are going on a journey with us. Two of them, a man and a wife, are about 10 feet tall. You can see them suddenly appear between Turelian and all of us in a circle around him. In space, in the distance, you can see the polar ice caps of Earth, the barren moon, and the sun, the stars. They have long, silver-like metal hair, but it's soft. It just looks like silver metal. Violet eyes, beautifully handsome, beautiful females, but longer necks, longer fingers, longer torso, longer legs, etc., because they're 10 feet tall. They are not from Earth. They are human-like, and the bodies they're showing you here, if you look above them, you'll see 2 spherical atmas hovering. They're running them. They're showing you what their bodies look like back on their planet, Xeontornamon 1. And it's located on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. It's a planet that's 4 times bigger than Earth. No polar ice caps, little continental lands all over it, and little oceans between them all, and domed cities, 12 of them on the surface you can see. There are 3 moons circling this planet with no polar ice caps. They are the size of Earth. They have no polar ice caps, and they're at different distances from this world, circling it, like our moon does planet Earth. And they're showing you this in space, mocking it up so you can see it. In the distance, you can see that this planet and its moon circles in the orbit around a trinary sun system. It means a big blue giant, closest. Further out, a yellow sun like ours. Further out, a red dwarf. It's a trinary sun system. The beings they're showing you, these bodies, are what lives on that planet. The bodies they're showing you on that world are more than 3.5 million years old on age. This is a different form of immortalizing body forms. But you must understand, they do not do this. This couple doesn't do that unless they could be of benefit to all the worlds they supervise and all the beings on them, that covers a little more than half of the entire Milky Way galaxy. They are from a race called Xentronomus, which evolved originally on worlds in a galaxy 5 galaxies away from us. There's another couple that appear standing on the other side of Turallion between us circling him and him. And they are the same height. They have different colored eyes, golden, red, violet. And they have their son, who's a mature adult, is half their height. They have slightly pointed ears, this silver-like hair. And they are part of a spin-off. The Xentronomus and this race really came from the same evolution. And they are here with their son, who does not fully grow in height for hundreds of years. And they also are running bodies they're showing that are very ancient. And this is races that are humanoid that exist in our galaxy today. This Dos Ventalis couple, this is what they're called, are not natives of the Milky Way, but they come here because they are master teachers in what is called the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. And it is a place that exists beyond the void known to certain esoteric groups like some Buddhists on Earth, in the worlds that exist, in the realities that exist above that void. And it's a training facility. Turallion, myself, the Xentronomus couple, the Dos Ventalis couple and their son, and others teach there. So when beings leave their body at night, if they know how to see it and imagine it, they can go there and advance very quickly. There are 2 other master teachers who generally, for now, agree to come with us on these journeys to be of benefit to all of you. One is named Master Ramu, and he's off a little further in the distance, standing beyond Turallion, between us that circle him. And he has a short cropped black curly beard and black hair and maroon robe, and he's holding in his right hand a quartz crystal staff about 6 feet tall, crested with what in Egyptian history was the Ankh, a long vertical oval with a hole in it and a cross, and it is a device, and he always carries it. It's his trademark. It's a teaching tool. He's smiling. He nods his head towards us. The Atma, brightly lit, that he is hovering behind this form he is showing you. He actually has this physical body stationed on Earth, often in parallel dimensions that he can move between. Over to the right, just beyond where I'm standing near Turallion, out in the center of this group with all of you circling around us, is a being named Master Opellum. About 6 feet tall with long, shiny, silky black hair, emerald green eyes, slightly pointed ears, lovely moonstone-hued blue skin. He's holding up his hand. He has little webs between his fingers, little gill slits under his neck. Hardly see it noticeable unless he lifts his neck. This is a human race that lives on a mostly water-covered planet in the 3rd higher parallel dimension on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy from Earth. They evolved the ability to breathe underwater or on land. So on their world, which he's showing you now, there's a sphere forming in space in front of them. No polar ice caps. It is a planet 4 times bigger than Earth also, and has little continental-sized islands, 2 or 3 of them centered around the equator, and no other land. And you can see down on that planet through crimson type of clouds that there are domed cities in jungle clearing areas in a tropical arena down on those islands. You can see 3 moons surrounding this planet, the size of Earth. dome cities on them. These two races, the Oceania and the Zintronomus, have been connected for a very long period of time. They are the most adept scientists in the galaxy. The Oceanians are known for the most advanced crystalline-based technology that deals with antigravitic craft and travel far beyond the speed of light and all that kind of thing. And he's showing the way his body looks. It's immortalized on his world to this very day. When you look into the distance, you see it circling this planet and its moons, a trinary sun system. There are quite a number of these out in the Milky Way galaxy, believe it or not. And then he lowers his hand. He's just showing you the little webs because otherwise he looks perfectly human. The genomes are the DNA of the Oceanians. And humans on Earth is so close you could actually mate with them. Not that they would want to mate with anybody on Earth, but that's how far back the genomes go in the different spacefaring and higher evolved races. The Sayres had a hand in developing before the Oceanians existed. These are master teachers. When you look up in space, you can see the Earth, no polar ice caps, the barren moon, the sun, and all the stars around us. You can see a doorway, a circular spiral winding upward clockwise. And it looks like blue-green luminous water, but it isn't water. If you look at this vortex, which is widening above all of us, you'll see that it's making a certain sound emanation, a high single note of a flute, and the humming of a million bees, but it's not frightening, it's soothing. And when you look through it, you can see just on the other side of it is a brilliant cobalt blue atmosphere. And in the distance is this circular landmass floating in this blue energy of space. There's no sun or moons or stars. It's simply floating in this surrounding cobalt blue luminous light. And then you're going to see a field of energy form around us in a sphere that's made of this blue, cobalt blue luminous light. And that sphere surrounding all of us moves us up into that opening, instantly shot through it until we're looking down upon 6 mountain snow-covered peaks in a circle. We can see through the landmass. We can see us hovering in space around Turelian with a blue field of energy around us near Earth with no polar ice caps. I mean, with the polar ice caps and the barren moon. And then when you look down, you see that that landmass becomes solid. And you find that we are floating around Turelian now, all of us, in this cobalt blue luminous light that surrounds and is the atmosphere, as far as you can see in every direction. It extends into infinite space. No stars, no moons, no suns. And then you see we were looking down on a huge circular landmass, 6 mountain peaks in the center, and a white luminous beach that surrounds the complete outer circumference of it. To the left of the western mountain, north, south, east, west, right near a lower plateau on a 100-foot wide, or that's what it looks like, the white marble floor, is a blue glass-like transparent administration tower that rises up to a flattened spherical area and then up to a minaret point. And inside that flattened spherical area, you can see there is a fountain in the exact center of a floor that's like the size of a football field, circular. And in it, it's like got white marble, white alabaster scalloped edges, and there's a shaft of white golden light coming down from the point of the minaret down into this fountain, flowing over the edges in a smooth, glistening, luminous, even sheet. and it goes down the shaft of this tower and out through the bottom of the U Expansion Ray Academy, which is what this place is called. We are in a special created parallel dimension that exists between the fifth realm, the first major realm above the void, and the sixth realm. When you look down on this tower, you find yourself suddenly inside this glass structure. Looking out through the transparent walls, you can see the 6 mountain peaks behind us. You can see a white roadway extends from the base of this blue glass tower, and there are white roadways extending in every direction until they end on the beach, completely surrounding the circumference of this landmass. They go into perfect tunnels through the mountains and into this hollowed out center of this landmass, continue through tunnels on the other side to end on the beach on the other side. In the center of this mountain range, inside, you can look right through it and see a shaft of white golden light pulsating up and down. You can look up and see it comes from a much higher reality, comes down into the center of these mountains, and is projected downward. You can see a shaft of this same white golden light coming down in the minaret point of the U Expansion Ray Academy Tower. Down to the fountain, it's a mechanism, and down through the floor. And these energies go through the world below, which is the first realm of the Atma or soul, into a special dimension that exists just above the void. It goes down through this pale blue atmosphere of this void that seems like there's nothing in it, but there is. And then down through the lower dimensions of time and space. And you can see we're still hovering around Turelian, outside in space above the planet Earth with the polar ice caps. We are also hovering around this fountain, inside the Bluegrass Administration Tower administration area. Turelian, this physical 18-foot tall form, you see the form dwindle and diminish and dissolve into a particular teardrop in the third layer that surrounds him as a being, a spherical being. And then he moves into this shaft of light, filling this fountain. You can see him hovering inside it. And each one of us are drawn into that center until, because there is no time and space here, we are inside this mighty shaft of white golden light, comfortably floating in a circle around Turelian and myself and others. And this white golden light, this first sound, this first word in eternity, comes from a realm very much higher than here. And it passes through the white core of our beings harmlessly, making the centers brighter. This is about recall and remembering what we knew before we started incarnating or running bodies in the lower worlds of time and space. Then we find ourselves moving straight down through this blue glass administration tower shaft, down this shaft of white golden light until we come out the bottom. When we're looking up, you can see that we're looking at the bottom structure underneath this floating landmass. There's a giant, looks like a amethyst crystal, perfectly formed, smaller ones that kind of gradually get smaller towards the edge, and they're lit up. And this golden white light is beaming down through this main crystal downward. And we follow it until we see we're coming down into a realm just below here, high through the atmosphere. There's a beautiful, slightly less bright cobalt blue atmosphere. And then we're looking at, in the distance, a long snow-covered mountain range. And we're coming down to hover around the center of another identical fountain here, with circles of botanical gardens going out around it. And off the edge of a white marble floor that this thing sits on is a brown moss-covered path that winds its way into the distance up to a palatial crystalline estate that lines the base of this snow-covered mountain range. And at the edge of the path, just stepping on the white marble floor, is a being known as Sat Nam. It means true name. It just means the first sound, first word, which is not a spoken word. And he has his right hand up in greeting. He's bronzed of skin, about 36, bald head, very muscular, bare-chested, little white tunic down to above his ankles, bare feet, and 2 golden bracelets on his upper arms. And he's simply greeting us. This is the realm of the Atma, the first demarcation point for what we call soul, that travels into the void below here and then goes down and runs bodies in lower worlds. And he's pointing to the statue. And he walks across this marble floor and up to, puts his right hand on it, points to it. And it's a statue of him with his palms down at his side, palms open, and this white golden light is pouring through this statue, through the palms, filling this bowl in a luminous white golden sheet. Looks like water, but it's brightly lit. And it flows in a clean, even sheet around the outer scalloped edge and down through. There's a seat made of white marble, scrolled feet. It goes down through the bottom of that and continues down through the bottom of the Atma plane and goes into the void, which is a vast area that divides the upper realities from the worlds of time and space. And he's simply welcoming you here. And if you wish to, you'll see that that fountain statue of him dissolves into a white shaft of golden light, golden white light. Terrellian steps inside it. We all do the same. And now we're inside a vast area with this golden white light roaring harmlessly through the core of our beings, brightening them. And this has to do with recall and remembering how we originally came from this plane before we started working in the lower worlds long ago. And then he points downward, and we find ourselves moving right through the bottom of the land that makes up the Atma plane. We come out to the coast, and we're looking at a long, white, luminous beach that extends perfectly straight as far as you can see in both directions. And this side of it is this pale blue, luminous light. And we find ourselves moving downward at such a speed, this coastline of this land diminishes in the distance and vanishes. And as we begin to perceive looking downward, we can see we are approaching what looks like a world with 80,000 continents on it, crystalline structures, and beings with physical forms standing or walking that are transparent. And we move downward, and you can see different dimensional levels passing by us. We're going down this shaft of white golden light until we come out through an opening that is surrounded by blue-green luminous light. It's a swirling vortex clockwise. And we find ourselves hovering again around Terrellian, looking at Earth with the polar ice caps, the barren moon, the sun in the distance. And Terrellian raises his right hand in peace and greeting and nods. Ramu does the same, Opelum does the same, the Ziantronomos couple does, the Das Ventalis couple and their son do the same. And then they vanish. And the next vision you have is hovering above your body on Earth, wherever you may live, peacefully and kindly looking down on that sleeping body, sending a little beam of white golden light down into the pineal gland, the center of the brain. It gently radiates through the brain, out through your form until it's about 2 miles wide to create a certain field of protective energy. And then it continues out into Earth. It connects to 3 different pyramids that are stationed on Earth now. 2 at the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans, and 1 in a hollowed out interior of a mountain in the Himalaya. And they have fountains in them. And that they're like concentric generators. And then that energy continues off planet, and it connects with a pyramid that's hovering stationary between 2 giant asteroids in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of a planet between Mars and Jupiter in our solar system. It's beamed out the top and in the sides, away from the sides. And if we get above the Milky Way galaxy now and look down on it, you'll see that this light is now connecting to massive pyramids stationed in space between each star. And that energy is shot upward into a spiral that continues up through the dimensions to return to its source, which is located many levels beyond the Hugh Expansion Ray Academy. Kindly allow yourself to bring the memory of this journey into the brain and body you grew up with, because it does not have any of this in it at all. They can't imagine it. It's never had programmed data in it to use to imagine this. And allow it to become more enlightened, brighter, higher IQ. Be kind to yourself. Allow yourself courageously to remember who and what you are that has never been a physical body, because that's who and what you really are. And it's spherical. When you're ready, open your eyes.
So now the audience can explore how the upper world looks like.
Yeah, and if you're going to go somewhere, you have to know what it looks like, at least some basic points. And you want to get above the void, because then you're moving into energy that has no negative or positive nature. There's no trap. There's nothing that can influence you to imagine negative things there. So if we want to change something on Earth, we want to change it with beings there first, and then it will reflect down through the universe and eventually change the Earth as well. So if we go on journeys to remember what places look like, begin to recover it, to bring it back to the surface of our awareness, then a being with a little bit of effort can go back there on their own. They could ask for Ramu or Opelum or somebody to be a guide, Torellian or myself or any of them, and go there and start to create and to imagine new things there with others who are doing that. The mechanics I mentioned of the universe, the silent mentors also work there. So it's a way to hobnob and collaborate with such beings. Many master teachers teach there that have physical bodies in the physical universe somewhere, some on Earth. So when we start to be able to imagine such places, we actually can go there. We ride the first sound, this non-nuclear sound, this energy, between locations. It is not limited to space and time, and it isn't limited to the speed of light or gravity. So I want to leave people with that, pleasant dreams. And thank you, Perry, for doing these little journeys we do with me, because they'll be beneficial. This book, The Seirei's Agenda, reveals that and much more. And this is more about what is taking place out in the solar system and the universe right now. This is a mile-long Emerald Star cruiser. Bridge control here, same identical one here. It's made for traveling between interdimensional conduits, vortices between vast points in space and time. And it has an electromagnetic field around it, like these 30-foot disc-shaped craft with the 3 semispheric pods underneath. They enter into a landing bay in this ship by changing their molecular time rate up, and they pass right through the metal hull. There's no open launch bays in this craft. There are, let's see if we can see them here. Let's see. Yeah, you might not be able to see them, but around the midsection right here are little vertical 6-foot-long oval windows, observation portals that surround the craft. These are the ice rings that make up, chunks of ice that make up the rings of the planet Saturn. That's Saturn. This is permanently stationed in our solar system now. This is Mark Sanfield, who's out on a solo camping trip in the High Sierra Mountains. These are 3 extraterrestrial assailants that want to kill him, blowing out a section of a big tree. The ship above him has a human pilot that beams him aboard and saves his life. That's where his adventure begins on Earth, because he's not from Earth. He just doesn't remember this yet. In the back of this book, particularly this latest edition, like this one, same size, typos that were there are gone. And in the back of this book is a section which has special techniques that work with the Hue, being able to travel into other realities and meet people from other worlds. And it looks like this. Preliminary technique section. And there is a special technique for the prologue and all 29 chapters so that people can work with this, use it as a doorway, and begin to have remembering, direct, conscious, kind of positive, uplifting experiences, etc. This book, the first book of the Parallel Time Trilogy, this scene is taking place just over 100,000 years ago. When Lemuria was destroyed, the poles flipped. Atla, a colony of this continent, 2/3 its size on the other side of the equator, was also destroyed, all but a volcanic island, which in later history developed to the Atlantis most people have heard about, was destroyed through the misuse of science. They're introducing this master teacher, who was Ramu you met tonight, with his staff, this little creature named Etta, who is silica-based from another world, lovable and courageous to a fault, developed the ability to defy gravity through a charge in his tail. This human male, this human female with blue skin, Melina, are hovering on anti-gravitic discs that have come out of his ship, stationarily hovering. And this being is introducing them for the first time to what is called the Ancient One, or Prime Creator, the source behind all life. This is the 5th dimension and what it looks like where Satnam is. This has come down through a dimension much higher. And what these beings don't realize, this one, and this one, not the master teacher, they don't realize that one of these that looks just like that's hovering above their heads. So they look identical to the source itself. So one of the enlightening experiences they go through. The 2 sequels, this takes place in ancient history of Earth, well, somewhat ancient, 100,000 years. It involves extraterrestrials, which they all are, influencing Earth at the time, good and bad. And this is a bad guy, a human being that's gone very bad. You can see how he's holding the Earth in his hand. These are actual actors that portrayed this part to create the original artwork for these covers from someone who was very good. And I hired and worked closely with in directing how to get these images correct, particularly this little guy. So when you see them, these were actual actors in costumes, so we get really realistic images on the books. There are 2 sequels written. This is the first published one. And this is about extraterrestrial involvement out in the universe 100,000 years ago that ended up influencing present time Earth. This is more about what's happening and changing out there no one expected. Okay, I'll leave you with that. The website addresses will be on Perry's YouTube video of this recording when she puts it up there, right, Perry?
Yes. Highly recommend to read these 2 books of yours, Scott, and to go along with the journeys. Will benefit you a lot.
But it's like she's saying, it needs to be your experience. And if you put a little effort into it, you'll have those experiences. It's not about spaceship rides. People on Earth really aren't ready for that. Most people who think they're ready would run in terror if a man and a woman, kind as beyond imagining, got out of a ship and landed in front of you. It's the subconscious negative fear that would cause people to react this way. So we got to get that fear out of the way. And then you can walk tall and hold your own amongst such beings if they do come and give you the privilege of riding on one of their craft. That in itself would not change your consciousness or set you free. But if you're ready to meet with them, the energy they emanate could help you do that. So we want it to be constructive and one way. Okay, then. Thank you, Perry.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you everyone for watching. Please thumb up, subscribe, and share this video. See you again next time.
See you next time, Perry. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Pleasant dreams.